All right, so we have a question from our children.
So we were talking about gestures that we do during the Divine Liturgy. So we were talking about things like the priest raising up the gospel book, or breaking bread, and sort of the significance around them. And one of the gestures we talked about is when you offer the gifts by lifting up the chalice and the discos, this. And the very practical question is, why are you crossing your hands? Why are you not just
lifting up separately?
Like this?
Yes. Well, this one actually has something cool behind it. All right, so the question is, there's this point in the middle of the service when the priest lifts up the gifts, the bread and the wine. So this is before, basically it's at the point where we have, we're saying, remembering all these things that you, O God, have done for us. The cross, the tomb, the resurrection on the third day, the ascension to heaven, the sitting at the right hand, the second and glorious coming. Kind of cool right there already, because we're remembering something that hasn't happened yet. So that's making clear that this is not our earthly time that we are in anymore. We've kind of entered into the time of the kingdom of heaven, which is timeless. So that's in that context. Remembering all those things, we offer these things to you, your own, on behalf of all and for all. Okay, so as the priest does that, he's got his arms upraised. Actually, yes, I'm getting myself. Oh boy, I don't actually have it in front of me. I'm not doing it at the altar, so everything's a little confused. But I believe this is it. Yeah, exactly. My muscle memory is not reliable in this moment. But anyway, arms crossed, and that's the relevant point. Arms crossed. Okay, why? All right. So there is a really cool tradition in Orthodox theology and hymns that Moses, as he lifts up his arms. Oh, now I got to remember. Tom, do you remember the exact one where it talks about Moses' arms crossed? It has to do with the cross, and we remember it for feasts of the cross and the elevation of the cross in particular. But obviously I'm not prepared either, so I'm doing this from memory. But regardless, the point is there is a moment when Moses is commanded by God to lift up his arms with his staff. It is not it's not for the parting of the Red Sea. It's at another time, and it says that he does this with his arms in the sign of the cross. And this is a sign it is a shadow, like something that wasn't obvious in the moment, but now we understand the full implication. Because the point is that it's not like Moses was working magic, and it's not like Moses himself had any power, or even that his staff had any power. But why do all that? Because it is all revealing the thing that does have power, which is the cross of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's what works all these wonders. It is in the sign of the cross that Moses is acting as like a prefiguration of what would happen later. And so his arms are in the sign of the cross to show what is to come. And now what was just a shadow in the time of Moses now has been plainly revealed. We know clearly that the cross is what makes everything possible for us. And that is, in fact, how it is that we can offer up these gifts. Because again, remember, that's the starting point. Remembering the cross is the start of it. The cross, the resurrection, and all the rest. So the cross is like the crossroads of everything in our faith. Everything leads to the cross, everything leads from the cross. And it goes in all directions. We are not We're not watching a movie here. This is not, or even, heck, movies do flashbacks and things all the time anyway. But regardless, this is not like some sort of strict thing where you can only look at things with whatever the knowledge that was available historically at the time, and that's the only thing that can have any potential significance. The way the Orthodox Church always works is that there is today. Today is the thing. And so whenever we are celebrating anything, it's like today God acts, today a virgin gives birth, today Christ dies on the cross, today is the day of resurrection. And so the power of the crucifixion and the resurrection on the third day are present, even going back into the depths of time to when Moses was helping the people of Israel. And so remembering Moses, the priest is doing the same thing. And so he is like kind of an echo of Moses, making his offering on behalf of all the people to God, your own of your own, on behalf of all and for all. Adam.
Question, kind of a heavy one. How do you make peace with someone that hates God, and what if there's consequences in the real world in doing so?
Well, there are and the consequences.
Actual there could be retaliation, or using that as a way to cause more pain, or from that person. The retaliation. So it's like if you make peace with them, that open the door
more like pain coming back your way.
Right, or not even to you, but those.
But other people.
Yeah. Someone that deliberately hates God, like someone that's against the Lord.
Yeah. So, what I would say there is those kinds of things are obviously, as you said, that's a heavy question. So the question is basically, how does one make peace with someone who hates God, and where their hatred of God is such that it has consequences to people in real life, and you reaching out to make peace can open the door to further offenses, further injuries, not just to you reaching out, but to those that you care about, those people around you. Yeah. So let's just start with the reality that this is something that happens no matter how you behave. Okay, that if people are determined to cause suffering, dismay, cause offense, hurt people's feelings, or much worse than hurt people's feelings, that is something that's really on their side. And so, we can in fact look in history, we can look in Scripture and see cases where people are provoked into this or that bad action, but also times when it's unprovoked, and they're just determined to cause some, like it could be something as simple, there's a number of cases in the Bible. I'm thinking, for example, of the 3 holy children who went out of their way. All right, so let's give a little bit of context here. 3 holy children are among those who are taken captive and are now living in Babylon, foreign kingdom, foreign gods, and their people, their way of life has been utterly crushed. But they are determined to remain faithful to the true God, and they're going to live according to the Jewish law as Jews in captivity. And they do this while being wise diplomats. So they go out of their way the whole time to not cause trouble, to show honor and respect to those in authority, especially to King Nebuchadnezzar, and they are demonstrably the best in his court. They are excelling in everything that they do. God sees them acting faithfully and blesses them. But that is not enough to protect them from envy and resentment. And in particular, to get to the heart of the matter, people are outraged because they're going to do everything they can to honor and obey this foreign tyrant, but they will now not bow down to false gods. That's where they have to draw the line. That's where we must draw the line. We cannot offer worship to anyone, anything but God. Because they refuse to do this, they are eventually dragged before King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made the decree that everybody has to bow down before this golden idol that he's commanded to be set up. And basically they say to him, after he threatens them with horrible torture and death in this fiery furnace, he says to them, King Nebuchadnezzar, basically, live forever. We remain your faithful subjects, but you don't have to threaten us, because whether we live or whether we die, we're not going to bow down to this false idol. We're not going to do it. And if God chooses to save us, then he'll save us. But if he chooses not and lets us die, we're still going to be faithful to God. End of story. And so they accept that he has the power to be cruel and tyrannical no matter what they do, no matter how they act. They can appease him and go along with him and still be treated horribly. And if you know your history, this is the thing, Adam, is that you can find all sorts of examples where people tried to buy off tyrants. I could name some prophets in the Old Testament that condemn kings of Israel because they were trying this logic. They were saying the kind of thing, the kind of problem that you set for us. Kings of Israel, before the conquest, they were in a rough neighborhood, kind of like today in the Middle East, and they knew that they were the only ones who were under God. Like everybody else did not know or care about God. They had their own gods to worship, and they were totally ready to completely destroy all the faithful worship of the God of Israel. And so very often the kings of Israel would see this problem and say, you know what we got to do? We need to appease Egypt. We need to appease Syria or Assyria, these powerful forces in the neighborhood who were not friendly to God. That in fact they would have to appease them in various ways by going along with things they didn't believe in, following false practices, false worship. And so we say they're bad kings, they're not faithful. And basically what God says through his prophets is that you are putting your trust in princes. You are imagining that they will somehow deliver you. But I'm going to in fact use some of these faithless powers, these tyrants, to work justice upon you, because you wouldn't put your trust in me. I will in fact bring suffering and punishment upon you. So there's really hard lessons in the Old Testament where it's basically saying this doesn't work. So this is all kind of in a mysterious way. I would not, by the way, work this out as some sort of literal, this is the process by which God works. That's not how we're to understand these prophecies. The heart of the matter is this. It goes right back to the three holy youths. That essentially, we always have a choice. We have the choice to be faithful and be people of integrity, while at the same time acting with humility and peace and love, or we can act as the world expects us to act and still suffer. So in other words, God does not promise any of us that we will not suffer. In fact, he says the opposite. He says, if the world hates me, it will also hate you. And if it persecutes me, it will also persecute you. So we should not expect that somehow there is a get-out-of-jail-free card in Christianity. We should expect in this, and it's not even a Christian thing. It's just like this is a broken world with jagged edges to it. You can be as worldly as you like. You can fight fire with fire. You can be like dog eat dog. You can do all that, and maybe for a little while you'll be the top dog. You'll be the one that's like devouring all the little dogs. But you get just a little bit, weaken your guard just a little bit. You cross the wrong person, and suddenly you're the one that gets dragged down and torn apart. And what have you gained for all that suspicion and enmity and tyrannizing others that you've been doing as a way to keep yourself safe somehow? Like I gotta this is a rough world, so I just gotta be like this is the language of the kings of Israel, talk themselves into eventually leading to the destruction of Israel. Because here's the other side of the coin. Jesus did not promise that we would be free from suffering in this world. In this world, you will have trouble, he says. But he also says, do not fear, little children, I have overcome the world. And that's the other part of the picture, is that the suffering that a tyrant like Nebuchadnezzar or anybody you want to name, Stalin, Hitler, you pick your tyrants. They can do really bad stuff for a period of time. They have that power. They can inflict all sorts of harm and like moral injury, and they can terrorize people and humiliate them. They can do all those things. But the funny thing is that if you choose not to change how you behave and how you respond based on their tyranny loses its force. In fact, this is where the martyrs come in, because the martyrs are like, they drove tyrants crazy because they would like go to more and more extreme degrees trying to stamp out this faith in God. And it's like, okay, so you turn the dial to 9. It's like, you're going to give in? All right, well then we'll move it to 10. All right, now 11. I don't have anything beyond 11. What am I supposed to do? And it's like you run out of, like you've tried everything you have, and if it doesn't do anything, like this is like, parents, this is like one of the things that you got to really watch out, in terms of dealing with a recalcitrant child. It's like, if you threaten a child and say, if you don't do what I tell you to do, oh boy, you're going to be punished. And, okay, all right, fine. And then you do your punishment, and then they keep on doing it. Well, what then? Do you, do twice as much, twice as long? I mean, like at a certain point, it just becomes this battle of wills that's accomplishing nothing, and you feel stupid. And this is the problem with tyranny, is that if you pull out your whole bag of tricks and you use it all, and somebody still remains faithful to their ways, like those 3 holy youths in the fiery furnace, well then what it actually starts doing is undermining the authority of the tyrant. Because now, like, you're being this, like, you look weak, you look foolish, because you've tried all these terrible things and it's not working. You're not actually changing anything. And so there has to be a place of boldness and courage in all this, where you act like the 3 holy youths and say, I know that you have the power to hurt me and hurt those that I love in various ways, but we're willing to accept that cost because we're not willing to tell lies. And getting back to the very heart of your question, reconciliation, one of the lies that we must not tell is to say that I love God and hate somebody else. Like that's actually something that St. John in at least one of his letters, I think actually, if I remember right, twice, he says a version of this, but basically says, if I say that I love God but I hate my brother, I am a liar. So we can't do that. We do not have the permission to say, I love you, God, so much with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my strength and all my mind. And I love my neighbor as myself, except for Joe. Joe can go die in a lake of fire. That except for Joe undermines everything else. So we have to be willing to accept the costs of our salvation. The cost of our salvation is that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son for us while we were still his enemies, right? Before we did a single thing to deserve the least bit of love, the least bit of mercy from him. That's when he chose to send his Son to redeem you. And that's the measure of his love, and he says, go and do likewise. So that's a tall order. That everything I've said up till now is this is the public general message. Now let me say something else, which is that everything I've said is like the norm, the standard. Then there is the pastoral application of how do you actually do that. And that's not something that I can really do in a public setting, where I'm going to set a rule for everybody. That actually has to take into consideration the specific circumstances, the particular people involved, the particular vulnerabilities, your strengths and weaknesses. There are many things that we are called to do that we do not have the strength yet to do. And there are things that we need to humbly say, I'm not yet ready to be faithful in the entire commandment of love. So everything that I said has an asterisk on it, which is kind of those advertisements for wonder drugs on television or on the internet, where it always has this thing at the end where it says, talk to your doctor. Basically talk to your doctor. At the end of the day, what you got to do is this is why we have priests assigned to parishes with particular people that they're responsible for, so that I know what your circumstances are, and I can measure the general rule and apply it in your particular case, and say, okay, Adam, given what you're telling me, here's some ways that make a beginning here, where you're not, it's not helpful to say, well, like Peter does this, right? Where he says, Jesus, even if everyone betrays you, I will be with you to the end. And he says, I will never betray you. And Jesus says to him, I tell you the truth, before the rooster crows, you will have denied me 3 times today. That can be us. We can have all these heroic intentions. I will be I will be like a martyr. Do all these heroic things. I'm going to love my enemy. And then you find that Joe is actually really, really hard to love. And then you just give up and say, well, never mind. This whole Christianity thing is too hard. And I'm going to go just, go back to dog eat dog. We can do baby steps to get to the bigger steps.
Thank you for
All right. How are we doing for time? Okay, we still got a few minutes left, so if someone has either a follow-on to something or...
I have a brief question.
Okay.
What is the understanding in Orthodoxy of something like original sin, which I understand is different from...
Yeah. Okay, well, I probably am not going to be able to do, in the 7 minutes remaining, a thoroughgoing one, but I'll take a stab at it. All right, so the question is, how does Orthodoxy understand original sin?
Yes.
All right, so we believe that, we believe in the significance of what is given to us in the account of Genesis, that Adam and Eve reject the commandment of God, they take the fruit that they were told that they must not eat, and by so doing, they inherit the curse that God warned them that they would inherit. And here is the crucial point. God tells them that the curse is death, right? That's what he tells Adam is the consequence of eating this fruit, and that's what happens to them. That now they suffer corruption, which is decay of all things. That's like corruption. Sometimes we even use that sense today. But basically, this is like decay, things not being their full, whole self, falling apart, not working properly, dying. And so corruption and death. Corruption leads to death. Okay, that is the curse that we are under. So that's like the crucial distinction this is what it gets attributed to Augustine. St. Augustine does not actually himself teach this, but people following Augustine add this in, that they say that original sin is this original guilt, right, that all of us inherit the condemnation of Adam, and basically we are hated by God. Like God cannot stand the sight of us. That's like utterly contrary to the Orthodox understanding. The Orthodox understanding is that God looks with great compassion and sorrow on the condition of his people, and does everything to reconcile with them, and before he can do that, heal them. So that's the crucial thing. Now, what St. Paul says about this, there is this thing about sin in this, which is relevant. It's not like it's not in the picture. It's absolutely in the picture. What St. Paul says is that as in Adam we all sin, therefore as in Adam we all die. So basically, there's this typology in the Bible, specifically in the New Testament, because now we understand what the typology is in reference to. So we have the old man and the new man. We have creation, the order, the pattern, the typology of Adam, and that way, which is humanity as we know it, since the fall and before baptism into Christ. Okay, so that crucial point, by the way, since the fall, we don't have access to knowledge of life in paradise. We have sort of like these kind of ancestral memories, that kind of, things that we long for that don't fit into the world as we know it. And that's kind of a memory of paradise in this kind of metaphorical sense. But in terms of like what it means to be a human being, our whole understanding of this is all mixed up because all we know is since the fall. Okay, that's a really important point. So since the fall, until our baptism into Christ, or, to think of it differently, Adam until Christ comes into the world, taking on human flesh from the Virgin Mary. Now we have this new Adam, Jesus Christ, who shows us what it really means to be a human being. And so basically what we all need to do is die to the old man and put on the new man. We need to stop living like Adam and start living according to Jesus Christ. And so that's rejecting sin and embracing what God wants us to do. Choose life, not death. These are all different things that are in the Old Testament and the New that are set out for us. These two ways. One that seems good at first is like that fruit that Adam and Eve took big bites out of. It looks so juicy and tasty at first, but the bitterness and the poison in it you only discover after you've started to eat. And that's what Adam and Eve were attracted to in the garden. It was their it's usually put in the form of love of pleasure. It's like basically things that seem really good at first because they're easy, they go down smooth, they're attractive to our eyes, our senses. They're satisfying, like, it feels really nice to let somebody have it, or to play games instead of doing necessary work, or listening to somebody that's hard to listen to instead of just hanging out with your friends all the time. You take your pick. There are things that are easy but ultimately soul-destroying, and there are things that are harder, but the more that you pursue them, the more that you become truly yourself. And that's what we are all trying to be transformed into. And thank God we don't do it ourselves. It's the Holy Spirit working in us, and we just have to. Our work fundamentally is getting out of the way. That's the heart of it, and that's the practical. That whole picture is the implication of original sin. Is that's all there as this way that we know that goes back to Adam, and all the generations since Adam, we've been kind of passing on a way of life that's adapted to this fallen world, but is not adapted to the kingdom of heaven.
Gotcha. It's like a continuity of Adam's choice.
Precisely. Because we keep choosing Adam's ways, right. We continue the pattern of sin that Adam started, and therefore we are still bound to death.
Understood.
Yeah. And the terrible trap of it all is that it's not just you in it's not like we're playing a choose your own adventure game where it's like do evil and go to page 10, do good and go to page 112. Kind of like what Adam was describing earlier. It's the whole structure of human existence makes it extraordinarily difficult to choose the good, to actually choose God's ways, because everything is like you will get punished in this world for choosing godly ways. You will suffer for it, but we just have to believe and follow that conviction that it's worth it. That it's like doing things God's ways, hard at first, but the more that you do it, the more rewarding it becomes.
It may not be the easiest choice, it may not be practical at the time, it may cause problems.
Well, what I always say is it's not only the truth, but see, here's the funny thing, is that yes, in the very moment, in that moment of crisis, it's often not the practical way. But the problem with the other way is that it lets you down. And so, you're basically going on credit all the time, and the bill's going to come due. And so, sometimes it really stinks to just pay up front. But the reward for paying up front is that you get all that cost out of the way, and then you're on to benefits.
It's like facing
So actually, here's the funny thing, is that if you actually try him out, if you actually follow God's ways, it actually is practical. It's impossible with us, but with God all things are possible.
Yeah.
So it's actually the more realistic way in the long run. It's just that we're always thinking in the short term. That's what gets us.
Yeah, it's the truth. How could it be wrong?
All right.
Father.
Thank you for your time.